there's not one person I wouldn't recommend to use red light. We're so blue light toxic. Like in my household, like very all incandescent light or full spectrum or whatever, it doesn't matter. We're on devices all day long. We're in cars that are giving off blue light. It does not matter. Like if you're in a building that has fluorescent lighting, like we could all use red light. I use it daily.
Breaking the gray.
Welcome back to the Rebel Scientist podcast. I am your host, Chantel, alongside my co-host, Sarah Turner. And today we have the wonderful Oksana Hansen, founder of Quantum Lens Wellness, circadian biology educator, and co-creator of the Return to Nature Retreat, which was absolutely incredible. Sarah and I were there this year. So lucky. We're so happy to have you here today. Hi, Oksana.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on. And it was so good to meet you guys in person. I feel like sometimes we have these remote relationships, but like actually see you and hug you and spend a couple days with you. It was wonderful. It was lovely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was my favorite event this year because it was kind of an event where we do a lot of these events where you're learning things, but it's usually in these big kind of characterless hotels, and we're kind of there talking about the benefits of sunshine and red light therapy while standing under these artificial lights. So I think maybe you want to tell people a bit about how you came to have that idea, but it was really nice to actually be able to walk the walk, because I think, a lot of times we're just talking about these things, and the irony is never lost on me that I'm quite often in a hotel under a blue light, having eaten some weird hotel thing for breakfast and kind of knowing that I'm not going to see the sky by the end of the day. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about the retreat and your idea from it and really how you came to that.
Sure, I'd love to. So I think I'll kind of start at the beginning, which is at the age of 35, I was diagnosed with melanoma. And really, I had skin cancer at the age of 12. So I saw a dermatologist 2 times a year, every single year from the age of 12 to 35. And so when I got diagnosed with the worst form of skin cancer, I was like, something isn't right. Like I was putting on the sunblock and wearing the sunglasses and the swim shirts that, block the SPF shirts, whatever. Right. So I was like, I need to find a way to figure out why this is still happening. And so digging into all the research of like, obviously I think there's a correlation with seed oils and, that's time for another conversation. But when I came across quantum biology that taught that sun nature, grounding your feet on the ground and getting those electrons, like all those things are actually really healing. And those are all the things that we're currently avoiding in our modern day convenient lifestyle. And so really I kind of, and then COVID happened. And so it kind of pushed me into my spiritual journey, my kind of awakening. And I felt lost and all I wanted was community. So I wanted a community that understood the choices that I was making for myself and my family during those really tough times that our world was going through. And also as going through my spiritual journey, I wanted community there. And I went to what happened is I started going to events. I started going to retreats. I started going to conferences. I wanted to learn more about what makes our immune system really strong. I signed up and did the Institute of Quantum Biology, got my certification in that. But it still kind of felt like it wasn't exactly what I was seeking. And so then the concept was kind of born of like, okay, well, if I can't find it, why not create it? And I think a lot of us that are like entrepreneurs, like that's what happens is you see a problem in the world, you're like, oh, I can solve that. And then you go on your way. And so that's kind of where this idea was born is I want to get all the up-to-date information. I want to learn from these experts. I want to fly in people from all over the world, which you guys came all the way from, Europe to come to this event in Franklin, Tennessee. So I want to connect with these people in person, feel each other's energies, and also, but do it in a really natural way where we're literally barefoot, where we're going out into the sun every hour, or every so often, and not be stuck in this conference room. And I mean, it's my event, but I gotta say, like, it turned out perfectly. Like the vision came full circle into life. And I just think it was incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, Sarah might agree on this, like the fact that we even had dinner in a river with our feet in the water was something just top. If no one ever took you on a date or like something, that is just the most magical thing with all these fireflies flying around. And you can tell a lot by events also when you don't spend like something like that. It was a reason for everyone to connect and to talk and to be in that space. So I feel like it really touches on all those points that you say. And like Sarah was mentioning with you and Carrie B, were you guys working together on projects before, or how did Return to Nature kind of come to be this baby that you guys started? And also, I would love to know what your favorite moment was that sort of surprised you of the event, that you didn't even think was possible, or just felt
Yeah.
really surprising.
So Carrie was the faculty member of Institute of Quantum Biology. So she became my mentor. And then when I had this idea, I was like, I'd really love for this to be a niche in the quantum biology space. And so I had this idea to like fly out and meet with her and say, like, what do you think about putting on this event? And so that's how her and I started to partner up on putting together this event. There's so many things that I loved about the event, but I think the speakers were phenomenal. Like each speaker, I was like, wow, I've never heard someone talk about that. And so the cool thing is we know these people have Instagrams. We know these people have YouTube channels. We know they have podcasts of their own. And so what was really unique was I asked every speaker, speak about something you've never spoken about publicly. And so it kind of became this joke of us calling it Quantum Uncensored now, because we're like, okay, go way out there about something you've never spoken about that you're interested in, or like, let's do something like off the wall. I don't want to go to this event in a beautiful setting, but hear about all the same things over and over again that we've already learned about. So that's kind of like an unofficial, we're calling it like Quantum Uncensored moving forward, because these are kind of new concepts and new ideas that I want this to be a space where you're connecting with like-minded people and talking about things you might not normally be talking about.
For sure, we did that for sure. I think for people that are listening that are maybe not so familiar with this quantum biology concept, it would be very interesting for people, because you kind of gave us a bit of a snapshot of your why then, that you had cancer and that you wanted a new way of dealing with it. I think people who are not familiar with this concept will be quite surprised then that you're talking about spending more time outside and
Yes.
potentially, being exposed to these things that most people, I think, would associate with potentially a higher risk of skin cancer. So maybe for people who are listening and who are not really aware of how that works, maybe you can just give us a little bit of an insight into how you actually changed your mindset and what you were doing regards that.
Sure. So, yes, the first thing that people are shocked about is I'm a melanoma survivor who doesn't wear sunblock anymore
Mm-hmm.
and spends all her time outside. And I'll tell you how I got to there. So, quantum biology, let's just do a really quick high level intro. Is there's this quantum physicist and a biologist. They were at a medical conference. And as we know, our medical system is very siloed, meaning when you're in your field, you're kind of just doing your own thing. There's not a lot of crossover of like working together. And so these two scientists came together and they created a new field called quantum biology. And that was, they said, maybe you can help me solve my problems and I can help you solve your problems. They got together and they figured out that yes, energy and all these things that are unseen are actually affecting our physiology, our biology. And so thus this is kind of a newer area of medicine being practiced. I don't know how many years it's been, but not very long, a few years. And the Institute of Quantum Biology also just got board certified by the American Naturopathic Medical Board to have this like as a certification. And so I think now it's growing more in popularity and people are really seeing the science behind what we consider to be the invisible. But what we now know is that tanning our skin, for instance, like that's our vitamin D storage. And so the reason we lose our tan during the winter months is because your body's actually using up all the vitamin D that you stored over the summer months. And we know that low vitamin D is associated with all types of diseases. And so finding these subtle facts, these information, it kind of changed how I'm looking at disease and our immune system. I've never felt better in my whole life. And so we now know there's a million studies of blue light toxicity. So blue LED lights are causing insulin resistance, and we're so blue light toxic nowadays. And, this is where we need the devices like Sarah Thrive and other tools to be able to add in that red light into our biology. Because when you're outside, you're getting all the full spectrum of the sun and all the light. But what we're doing is we're spending 90% of our time indoors, except for when we're walking to the car from the grocery store and back, right, under these blue lights. And it's nowhere near what it would look like if we were living out in nature. And so it's really why the name Return to Nature was really like, we need to return back to ancestral practices. Like, shoes were the worst thing that were ever invented. It completely disconnected us from Mother Nature, our magnetic field, and being able to get all these beautiful electrons that will go through your body and help heal inflammation, right? And so there's all these things that we do in our modern day living that has just completely disconnected us from the way that we used to live and thrive.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think that's why an event like yours is a beautiful way of also explaining it to somebody. Because I think that if you had the expertise versus if you don't, like you guys covered so many grounds, which was really interesting to see also how they connected. Because all the talks kind of linked in. So, but just to sort of lead a little bit more down your personal journey as well, I'd love to know what for you, just getting a bit into the nervous system regulation side of things and how you live with light and all these more natural practices when life gets really intense or chaotic for you and maybe you're not getting time for what are the things you try lean towards and sort of try to do to reset and get closer to the things you found now are helping you live a lot healthier and obviously more in your health and power.
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. And I think this is a really important conversation because um, before I got diagnosed with cancer, I had serious depression, anxiety, like panic attacks, all those things. And I think I was just so dysregulated. And so this what I call is like my event that happened in my lifetime that really flipped my life upside down completely. I quit my toxic job. Like, I changed my entire life. And when I got overwhelmed and had all these to-do lists, I have two small kids, right? Like, I'm a busy mom. I was working, doing all these things. Um, when I get overwhelmed now and I think, oh my gosh, there's not enough hours in the day to do what I need to do, I will actually cancel my entire day. And I know that sounds counterintuitive because you would think, okay, let me just buckle down and get through my to do list. No, I do the complete opposite. I take time for myself because what I feel like when I'm being dysregulated or I'm having anxiety is because I'm not living with intention. And I'm also maybe doing things that are out of alignment for me. And so that's really the time that I take to go within to see what's misaligned and then reprioritize and then move forward with a new plan, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're kind of equating this, because a lot of us, we're kind of on this journey to learn more about our biology, and I think the biohacking and the paleo movement, the whole thing teaches us a lot about that. But potentially some of the other things, like you mentioned, a spiritual journey or having that sense of meaning or taking time to actually be intentional with what you're doing, is a little bit missing. Um, so maybe you could explain a little bit more about how you focus on that, because it sounds like that's the majority of the work you're doing, even though, you're very big on the quantum biology piece. It seems that kind of mindset piece is equally as important.
And I think we get down this path, I think, of a job. And I like to look at it as a vocation. I like to look at it as something that I'm being called to do. So for a lot of my life, um, I felt like I was on a hamster wheel. And I think I kind of touched on this in my talk at Return to Nature, is I was down this path of like, I woke up and I didn't even recognize my life. I was like, wow, this is not what I imagined as a little girl, as like my perfect fairy tale. And I think from the outside, it might have looked that way, but inside it didn't feel like in alignment for me. And so I really had to reevaluate what are my values. And this was a really cool thing that I'll share with you that I did with my children. So my husband, my children, and I, we hung up a huge whiteboard and we left it out there for 2 weeks. And we said, whatever values come to you as you walk by this whiteboard, I want you to write down what your internal system, your internal value is to you. Doesn't matter what it is, whatever comes up, I want you to write it on the board. And so after 2 weeks, we had this huge whiteboard that was filled with all these values. But then what we did was we kind of narrowed it down. We were like, okay, let's see. Is there 4 values that say happiness? Are there 4 values that say health? Are there 4 values that say some kind of adventure or inspiration, right? Like all these things. And so we narrowed it down to like a set of 5 family values. I went to an artist, I had them create this custom art piece. It's beautiful. It's right by my garage door and it says Hansen Family Values. And this is a rubric of how we live our life with intention. And that is, if it does not meet 3 out of the 5 values, the answer is automatically no. We self select on what to say yes to with our time and what we say no to. And it's very easy when it's actually aligned with your family value system.
That's amazing. And also to be teaching your kids that way and to do it as a family, like to have it as, I feel like that stronghold that you guys have and to hold yourselves individually and also to be teaching your kids at this age or something. Because that's something I was going to ask you is, after all these things you've been through in these times, what would be your non-negotiables with your family and with you? So you kind of already answered that question. And a lot of what I'm also hearing is how it sounds quite that you're very present and things are actually a lot more simple for you now. Like with chaos, you make it simple. So I wanted to also ask you what you'd suggest to somebody who's living in a city or an apartment that doesn't have access as much to, you know, the simpler things that bring you closer to that, to regulate themselves or to bring them back into a circadian alignment or just bringing them a little bit more regulated, or making them a bit more regulated. What are some things that you'd suggest to people and you'd suggest to clients that they can start with today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I want to point out something super important that you just said though before I go down that city conversation is what I find in my journey is a lot of times we're not being in the present moment. So if you think about anxiety stems from not being present. It stems from thinking about the future or it stems from something that just happened or things that happened in the past. So one of the quickest tools of really calming your nervous system is just sitting down and being very present in the moment. Like I talked about like my fear of flying. Well, I I could sit here and have a fear of flying, but I'm not in a situation where I'm in flight or I'm on a plane or in an airport. So if I just draw my attention to I'm right here recording a podcast, that anxiety kind of withers away because you can't be anxious unless you're currently in that situation, if that makes sense.
Mm.
You think about the past or you think about the future, you can just bring your attention to the present and that can kind of help relax some of that anxiety. So I love New York City. I'm very vocal about like I love Broadway. I take my kids like 5 times a year. We go 3 days in a row. We'll see 3 different plays. Like we do this multiple times a year. I love New York, but when I get home, I'm exhausted because I'm not used to all the EMFs, all, big city living, all that kind of stuff. So there's certain tools that I use when I travel. And so if you're living in a city, the first thing you want to do is always get light first thing in the morning. So if you can't get outside, like open a window. Like it's very simple. So before you pick up any devices or do anything in the morning or even turn on any lights, try to get actual sunlight, sunrise in your eyes. For my sanity and for being present, I also don't touch my phone. So I have like a non-negotiable time for me in the morning because there are things that are, if I want to journal, if I want to meditate, cuddle with my kids, go outside and do sunrise. I do this beautiful like prayer with my children in the mornings outside. I don't touch my phone before that. And it seems impossible when you're a business owner or like I used to be a VP of sales. Like it seems impossible when you have clients all over the world wanting 24 hours access to you all the time. But it is possible. And it's just building, like having that boundary, right? So, uh, sorry, we've got 2 new puppies at home. So
What kind?
they're ringing the bells asking to go outside. They're Cavapoos, so they're Cavalier Spaniels and Poodle mix. So
You taught them to
Thank you
ring
for all
bells.
I know they're 3 days in and they're already ringing the bells asking to go outside to go potty.
Wow.
So sorry for sidetracking, guys.
No, that's another a very cool insight, actually, into how organised you are. That you've got your dogs trained to ring bells.
I know I could probably teach a class on dog training. It's so funny. So I'm just gonna. You know what? Let's talk about this. Happiness and laughter and joy is such an important part of being present. So, um, my father just died 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
And
sorry.
I didn't know that he had passed, but I knew I was off all day, like to the point where I fell asleep at 5 o'clock at night. And when I woke up from this nap, I was just exhausted. By this time, he had already passed and been revived and put on machines at the hospital, all this stuff before we even knew. Um, but I always talk about like the life death cycle because we were already talking about getting these dogs or a dog. We were getting a new puppy for my daughter. I woke up from the snap and I had no idea anything had actually transpired with my dad at this moment. And my husband was looking at dogs with the kids. And we found these 2 girls. It was just the 2 of them in the litter. They're sisters. And we're like, well, we can't separate them. Like we have to get them both, right? And so and I just kept manifesting that they were just going to be the best dogs. Like in my world, like I live heaven on earth. Like everything goes right. They're going to be easy. They're going to potty train easy. We're going to have this routine. They're going to live the circadian lifestyle, right? They're not going to get kibble. They're going to get fresh food. Like potty training is going to be easy. Like all these things. And like it literally came to fruition. And so
Wow.
So I think it was just this beautiful, like in a weird circle of life, like where I had like a tragic loss, but we brought happiness, life, and joy, and like these puppies in that have been fantastic. I don't even know. We never even met the dogs. They got delivered, from the yeah, it's
Wow.
insane.
They were meant to be then.
It's
That's,
That's
yeah, timing's incredible.
yeah,
Yeah.
fabulous. Fabulous. So you were mentioning the circadian biology piece, because again,
yes.
I think we've kind of thrown it around a little bit, but again, maybe you want to just explain a little
Yeah.
bit about that term so that
Sure.
people get where we're at.
So there's a couple things that we can do with city living to get as much exposure
Mhm,
to sunlight as possible. So
mhm,
I guess the one thing that people should understand is the light spectrum, the sun, it changes throughout the day. So our bodies do certain hormonal processes and all these other processes depending on what that light looks like outside. So it's just information. And so what we want to do is we want to give our eyes and our skin as much information as possible as to what time of day it is. So it could kick off certain things. And if you guys want to look it up online, just look up the circadian biological clock. It will literally tell you when's the best time to exercise, when you're going to have the most energy, when certain things are happening in your body. We don't need to go into that on here. You can do a simple Google search and look it up. When you're going to have a bowel movement, when all that shuts down so you can go to sleep, right? So what we want to do is we want to give our bodies as much of that light information as possible. And so I say there's very simple things that you can do. First, if you can, get outside, like in the morning. Then throughout your day, go outside. We always joke about how smokers are healthier than non-smokers because they go outside every hour to take a cigarette break, right? They're smoking, but they're getting all that light information into their eyes and then, into their bodies. Also, if you're driving, crack a window or open your sunroof if you can. So little tricks like that, especially, where you're at, I think it gets pretty cold in the winter, right? So you could have like your heater going in the car, but have your sunroof open or your window open to get that natural light. Um, if you can, like if you work in a building and you do like a one-on-one with your boss, see if you can do a walking one-on-one. Like, do you need to sit there at in a conference room or in an office? Like, eat outside. Like that's one of the simplest hacks. Like take your food outside. Like leave your phone inside, take your food outside. So I always ask myself, is this something I could do outside? I was literally at the gym with my husband this morning and I was talking, could I figure out how to podcast while I'm walking outside? Like, is there a harness or something that I can do that wouldn't be super distracted so I could be outside while I'm
That'd be
podcasting?
cool. Yeah, you just have a little like a vlog situation going on. Yeah. That'd be great.
So just get as much light exposure as possible because that's all information. And then without, like, again, if we're not getting that light, we're misleading our body.
Maybe, Oksana, I wanted to actually lead into our little rapid fire round questions so we can ask you a bit more about what you've got coming up afterwards. And if so, just first thing that comes to you when I say the line, the first light ritual you would never skip.
Sunrise.
And then favorite nervous system food that you're enjoying right now.
Oh, food. I was going to say water.
Yeah.
Meat.
One health practice people should stop chasing.
Stop chasing.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Lemon water.
Why? Now I want to ask why.
Chantel's big on the lemon water.
I drink a lot of lemon water. Now I want to know why.
Is it like the cabbage juice diet? We kind of all think that we should be doing
Yeah.
that. Cabbage juice and lemon water constantly.
Yeah, let's talk about lemon water. Lemon water it's become this craze, but it's really bad for your enamel, and your enamel will never go back. And so, honestly, just do minerals, do Quinton, your body craves hydration. You wake up dehydrated every single morning, and so why that lemon water feels good is because it's warm. It kind of feels like a warm, right? But just do that with salt or minerals in it instead.
Interesting. Good to know because I've been doing it my whole life. You know, because my gran used to do it. My little teeth.
They're all funny, can't they, Chantel?
Yeah, I know.
But I'm gonna back up and do I'm gonna do a second one too, and that is like kombucha or soft drinks that have like stevia or any kind of artificial sweeteners. So those are actually misregulating your insulin production and causing insulin resistance. And a lot of people say, okay, well, it doesn't have sugar in it, but the sweetness of the taste of it will actually release insulin in your body, and so it creates insulin resistance. So if you're gonna have it, have the full sugar.
Okay, nice. That's a good one to add, actually, because that's a big craze. That's a big craze. Yeah. And I love it. One way red light fits into your daily rhythm or just your routine in general.
There is not one person I wouldn't recommend to use red light. We're so blue light toxic. Like in my household, like which you guys have been to my house, like, right? Like very all incandescent light or full spectrum or whatever. It doesn't matter. We're on devices all day long. We're in cars that are giving off blue light. It does not matter. Like if you're in a building that has fluorescent lighting, like we could all use red light. I use it daily.
Amazing here. And then one simple regulation tool to teach your kids.
So recently we've been doing tapping. And so I think, just the pressure of creating, like being grounded, but also it helps with regulation of your nervous system. You're being touched with, which we need more touch in our lives. I think that's something that we're seriously lacking. And that's been really helping my youngest daughter. So we've been playing with that lately. Yeah.
It's also nice for kids. I mean, even when they talk about inner child work or things like that, it's often, like on the somatic level where you store things. Like my mom is a therapist. We always used to do the little, and it helps because it forces you as a kid, or even if you don't understand what's going on, to be present, which is really nice as well.
And you're not giving away your power. So like a lot of the tools, like the things that I like to teach people is I want to empower them. They have all the power. They don't need to give their power away to gurus or people to help heal them or fix them. They have all the power within. And so tools like this, it gives her the power. She's in charge of regulating her nervous system. It's not a crutch. Like, I'm not her crutch to regulate her, right? She has to learn how to do that on her own, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So maybe, Oksana, you can tell us a little bit about where to find you and also what you've got coming up, because I know you've got another event coming up. Of course, you've got the fabulous Return to Nature retreat next year, which I'm sure everybody's going to go to now after we've raved about it. But maybe you could just tell us what else you've got going on, because I know you. I'm sure you're not sitting still for a minute. So.
Well, I did take a nice sabbatical, 6 weeks off, so that was really lovely. Um, and again, that's another practice we don't normally do in the US that you guys do. And I think we need to do more of that. I think taking that time off to like realign and reconnect with your family, I think that's really important. So Return to Nature next year is June 11th and 12th. It's a Thursday and Friday in Franklin, Tennessee. It's right outside of Nashville. Same beautiful venue. Check it out. It's www.quantumlenswellness.com. I also have an events page on my website. And the next event that's coming up is with Nico Martins. And he and I are going to be teaching self-hypnosis. So again, giving people back their own power. So we're going to do a 3-day event where we're going to release trauma, but do it in a really loving, beautiful, and even joyful way. As someone who suffered capital T trauma as a child, like was abused my entire life until I moved out the day I turned 18, I had a lot of nervous system regulation and trauma that I would try to process with conventional talk therapy. I've been with my husband since I was 18. And every time we'd move or I got a new therapist, he'd be like, here we go again. Here's the depression cycle. He knew exactly what was going to happen when I started working with another therapist, because it would be reliving the trauma over and over again. And so what Nico's teaching now, and we're going to do an event around it, is trauma healing should be fun. It should be easy, and you don't have to talk about it, and you actually don't even have to know what it is that's stuck inside your body. But we're going to teach simple, effective ways that you could do anywhere to release anything that's coming up for you. So it's going to be a really, really cool event. And so after the retreat, I'll tell you guys this quick story. I started telling people, I'm like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? You want to come over? You want to come over? Nico's going to do a session. Like, I have no idea. Like, intuitively, I just started telling people that. We had a handful of people that showed up.
I remember that we wanted to come, but we were just leaving that day. So I think
Yes, you guys were flying out, right?
Yeah.
So Nico ends up saying, okay, well, trauma healing, like, it's stored in your body, but it's really easy to release, and you actually don't. And he's like, does anyone have anything you want to release? And I'm like, yeah, I have this really shameful fear of flying, and it literally hinders my life. And he goes, come on up here. And I'm like, okay. And we're doing the thing. And he's holding the energy. He said the energy was so strong when I was releasing this fear. He said he almost passed out because he was holding space for me, like while I was doing this practice. And after it took like, what, 5-7 minutes. And I sat down and I go, wow, I think we should test this. I think I should go to the airport and I should get on a plane. And I did. Like a few days later, I hopped on a flight and I was like, huh, that's an interesting experience. And all of a sudden, all this like tears, and I was overwhelmed by it, came over me. And I called Nico as soon as I landed. I'm like, oh, I had a breakdown on the flight. And he goes, what happened? And I go, oh, I was mourning this identity that I'd built. I had a really horrible flight when I was like 18, 19 years old. And I built my whole life identity around the fear of flying. All these things that I had to do, get to the airport 2 hours early, like had all these routines and all these things that I would do. And I was on this flight and I was crying because I was like, wow, what am I going to do with this new identity? Like, because now I'm no longer afraid to fly. It was insane that something that had haunted half of my life was disappeared. And it's gone.
Wow, that's amazing. So in terms of the technique, so is it hypnosis that you say? Is it a certain type of hypnosis that he does and that you now can do for yourself, or is it something that needs to be facilitated?
No,
The
it's
first.
a self-hypnosis.
Wow.
So you, again, like you have all the power to do it in the moment whenever things come up.
Yeah, that's fabulous. So tell us again, where are the details for
Yeah.
that?
Yes, it's
We
in
don't know,
Franklin.
just asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend. Yeah.
And I mean, it's going to be a fun time. Like, it's going to be like a circadian friendly,
Of
amazing
course.
food. We're going to do a sound bath. We're going to do the ice bath. We're going to do fun things to like get outside and play. And that's the thing is like releasing trauma, we feel like it has to be hard. It has to be heavy. We have to get ready for it. And this was nothing like that experience at all. I was like, whoo, I felt like I wanted to like cry laughing after. It was like so joyful. So that's how it needs to be. It needs to be easy. Okay, I want to say the dates are October 22nd and 23rd in Franklin, Tennessee. But check out Quantum Lens Wellness. It's on my website under the events page. And it's in Franklin.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
And yeah, just send over the date. We'll make sure that we have the right ones on the podcast.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Oksana, I wanted to ask you one last question that I would be really curious to know what your answer would be for this, because obviously you have so many different components of the way you live your life and how you are. As if you could leave one message for everyone to see in the world on a billboard, or the first thing that they'd see when they're like getting on a highway, what would it be?
If you guys have ever read the book about the 10 regrets of the dying, it was a hospice nurse who basically spent a lot of time with people at the end of their life. That was a really powerful read. And the only reason I bring that up is because at the end of your life, all the things that we thought mattered really don't matter. Like, what do people think about us? What,
Mhm.
right? Like, we don't know, really. As a recovering people pleaser, I always care about what people thought of me. Now, what I realize is I don't know what someone thinks about me. What I know is I'm actually judging them. If I'm projecting what I think they are thinking about me, that is my own judgment, and I should look within to see why am I projecting that. So that was just a little tangent.
No, that's so true.
But I made a lot of decisions in my life for other people. And I thought they would love me more. It was almost like, because I came from an abusive household, I was groomed like as rewarded for things that I would do. And that's kind of how I spent a lot of my life until I woke up one day and I was like, this is all during that whole period of like being diagnosed with cancer and uprooting my whole life. I started saying no. And what I found was no is the most powerful word in the English language. It's very simple to say, but most people don't say it. And when I started getting very clear on things that I was saying yes to and where I was putting my energy, my entire life changed. People left my life. It created space for new people to come in. Like I said, jobs and things that weren't in alignment for me anymore went away, but new opportunities came in that were so fulfilling. And so I think change is really hard when we're afraid or having anxiety about what it could be. And we always, I think, lean to think that it's going to be bad. But I always say, like, how good can you stand it? How good can you stand it? We're so afraid of things going bad that we're not able to take a risk on things that might be exactly what we want. So ask your husband for the thing, like selling this house in Franklin to buy a farm. Like he might say yes, which we're currently doing. Like ask for the thing, ask for the raise, ask, that person out. I don't know, like ask for the thing. Like if you don't ask, the answer is always no, but then also like say no that for things that aren't in alignment with you.
Ask for the thing. There you
Ask
go,
for the
Chantel.
thing.
That's brilliant. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. We should make a billboard with that. Ask for the thing. I like it. Well, always a pleasure to talk to you, Oksana.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. It's such a pleasure, and I hope we see you at the next event. Already planning with my grounding shoes and everything else for next time in Franklin. But it's
Take off the
fabulous.
shoes. Take off the shoes, Sarah.
No shoes. In fact, everything. We've got our Peter Forehand little
Exactly.
red silk. Yeah.
just need our little red silks and we're there with you.
Exactly.
So yes, thank you.
And I'd love to have you guys on the Quantum Lens podcast too. So
Yeah,
thank
we'd
you
love
guys
that.
for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And we'll see you soon. And to everyone listening, go follow Oksana, go follow quantumlenswellness.com, and don't miss out, because it really is, with everything going on, you guys are doing something extremely special within the health and wellness space, within just the awareness space, within the quantum space, within consciousness space. So go check it out, and we'll see you next time.
Breaking the gray.